Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the day 26 of the 28-day writing challenge. Yesterday, I talked about numbering all the paragraphs in your book. I did that today, and I came up with more than 700 paragraphs in my book, which is what I expected because there are 208 pages in the writing part of the book. So the next step after having done that is you start from the back, just to review what we said yesterday. And the last paragraph is numbered 1. The next to the last is numbered 2. And then the next one would be 3, and so forth. And you work your way all the way back to the very first paragraph of your book. And then that one will be a very large number. In my case, it was 700 something. Sorry, I have the manuscript in the other room. The next step is to start at the back. 'Cause the reason why you start at the back instead of at the front is because you are trying to evaluate each paragraph on its own instead of in the continuation of the story or of the flow of the book. So you start with paragraph number 1, and you're to rate each paragraph, in your opinion, between 1 and 10. 10 being just wonderful, great, people would set off fireworks as a result of it, and number 1 is you need to dig a grave for it. It is just the worst paragraph ever. And then all the ranges in between. And you need to be sort of careful as you're doing this. You can be overly critical of every paragraph, or you can be overly enamored with all of your writing. So you should remember that about 5 is about average, about an average type of paragraph. So you will go through and rate all of your paragraphs. Now, if you're hiring a professional editor to help you, you may skip this part, although I even recommend it for that because your book will be in so much better shape before you give it to them. They can spend their time on more in-depth and even better editing. And this is time-consuming. It's a little tedious. But you go back through, you rate all of your paragraphs from 1 to 10. And then I will go ahead and tell you what you do with that after you've done the rating. After you've gone all the way through, well, one thing they recommend that you do is to add up all those numbers, and then you divide it by the number of paragraphs, and you will end up with an average rating. And if your average rating is 7 or greater, then you're in really good shape with it. It should be somewhere between 4 and 8 or 9. It should be in between there somewhere, depending on how much you were able to do on your work before you got to this point. Well, anyway, you do that. So then you'll get an average rating for your paragraphs. And that may help you to see, well, maybe I was being too hard on myself. And so maybe I should consider them to be a point or two higher than what I'm going to have on those paragraphs. That's fine. This is for you. It's for your benefit. It is your opinion. And so that's how you go about doing that. Now, the next step is, if you have time, you want to continue concentrating on all of your paragraphs. But the very next step is, at this point, any paragraph that's rated 7 or higher, just leave it alone. If it is rated 3 or less, get rid of it. What? Wow. Yes, just eliminate it. that means you may have to make a transition point from the paragraph before to the next one. In some cases, you can just eliminate it and it just flows from one to the next and doesn't make any difference. But you go through and eliminate all of those that are 3s, 2s, and 1s. So that leaves the ones that are rated at 4, 5, and 6. These are paragraphs that are okay paragraphs, but they could be better. So what you want to do with each one of those that are rated at 4, 5, and 6 is to do whatever's necessary to bring it up to at least a 7. And I'll talk a little bit more tomorrow about how you can do that with some of those paragraphs. But anyway, that's where we are now. So we've gone through the entire book, numbered all the paragraphs, and then come back and rated all the paragraphs. Now, I have to confess to you, I don't have all of mine rated yet. Anyway, on that digital editing that we do before this big grand editing that I'm talking about, where I had the chart where you spent 3 days on each of the chapters. So tomorrow we'll finish that up, and then we'll work on these paragraphs for the grand editing. Now, actually, this could be like the next step, but I think maybe I will have that done by day 28. And so I will have a good rough draft and a good first round of editing, and then this even more in-depth editing. And that might actually be what you would consider going on into the next step. So I'm confident to say that we have written a book in 28 days or less, and done it without stressing myself to death, which is what the goal of the book is, the one that I've written before. So if you're interested in that, go to Amazon.com and download a copy of it or buy a copy. And it has all of the techniques that we've talked about and even more, many more things that we've talked about during this 28 days. So the next step after getting the book written, which it will be written by day 28, is to start on the promotion of the book, getting it ready to be published and to be sold. And unless there are some emergencies that come up, that book will be available on Amazon before the end of next month. Probably somewhere around the 3rd week or so, but don't hold me to that. I've got the whole month to work on doing that. Well, I am glad you have joined me in these 26 days of the 28-day writing challenge. Did you attempt to write a book yourself? Well, if you have, I hope it's gone well. If you haven't done that and you joined me in this challenge, just watching what I was doing, seeing my ups and downs, my joys and my sorrows. My joys have been much more than my sorrows, and I hope that's been encouraging to you. Well, until next time, remember, you can write a book.